Yeah. All right, all right. Shalom, shalom, family. Another video. We back at it again. This time we talking about the worldly holidays. Previous video we were talking about the biblical holidays, or holy days. So now we're gonna talk about the worldly or commercial holy days or holidays, right? So you already know. Say the Lord's Prayer. We're gonna get into it. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we give our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, let's rock. Holidays, are they pagan or righteous? Right, and that's a big thing. I remember when I first started, learning about the Bible years ago. I found out about the holy days, and I thought they was really interesting. Especially just like the time framing of them and things like that, like when they were, what they were about. When I was younger, even though I wasn't in the church or anything, one of my like favorite movies was the Ten Commandments, right? The old one back in like 1950. I just like the story with Moses and him doing all the plagues and all those things. That was just amazing for me to see, right? Especially as a child, and probably to this day, it's still my favorite story. I mean, Christ's story is the best story, because his is the overall story and the sacrifice he made. Like you can't top that. Like that's a real hero story. But Moses, that's my guy, MVP right there. And just thinking about that was a holy day, them going into the Passover and into unleavened bread, and just thinking about me growing up and celebrating certain holidays or whatnot, with my family. Um, but I actually, stopped celebrating holidays before I even thought about God. I stopped caring about Christmas. Thanksgiving was something, we really did. Easter, only doing it like once. Halloween, I cut that off when I was younger too, 11 years old or so. All these holidays that we celebrate today, like remember not, doing those holidays or whatnot. And it was just like music to my ears when I just like came across the Bible and started learning that those were things God didn't want us to do. I kind of knew they were bad, before I found God, years ago, probably like in 2010 or whatever. Just having debates on some people, I stumbled across information about like the evil and the origins of these uh, quote unquote holidays or holy days, these festival days that the world has given us, right? So today we're going to talk about, if they're pagan or righteous. I'm often saying that they are pagan, right? And I'm gonna give you examples and things like that, showing you the pagan origin of these things, right? All right. So the first one, um, the definition, I did it the other day. I'm just go over it again. Holiday, a day fixed by law, custom, which ordinary business is suspended in commemoration of some event or in honor of some person. Any day of exemption from work, like a working day, a time or period of exemption from any requirement, duty, assessment, etc. A religious feast day, right? A holy day, especially any of several usually commemorative holy days observed in Judaism. Holidays, chiefly British, a period of cessation from work or one of recreation, vacation, an intentional gap left on a plated, coated, or painted surface, right? It says suitable for a holiday, a festival. So, like I said, as I went over in the last video, it's like I said, a holy day, right? Or a holiday, whichever one you want to call it. So this is the ones that's in Leviticus, right? Chapter 23 lists the holy days in the Bible. Is the whole chapter of Leviticus, right? So the first two verses, verse 1 and 2, it reads, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts." And then in verse 44, which is the end of the chapter, it says, "And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord." So, like I said, these holy days belong to God. These are God's holy days. God made them. He's the origin of them. He makes the rules for them, those type of things. So, the fact that God has holy days, the holy days we got, or holidays that we have in the world, we got to think about who they come from. Why was they created? Why were they made? Because I told you before in the last video, Satan makes things just because God makes things. So he's like a copycat, right? He just does it his own way. Um, but the problem is, like I said, we don't know that, right? So when we get into this lesson, we're going to talk about it. So those were the holy days. And I'm going to give you an example. I remember coming across this scripture and, talking to somebody who was a believer of Christ, right? A Christian. And they were telling me this was because they were celebrating these days wrong, right? So this is the book of Amos, chapter 5, verses 21 through 26. It says, I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy vows. But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have you offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? But you have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and chewing your images, the star of your God, which you made to yourself. Right? So, as I'm reading this, right, the first thing I notice it says your feast days, right? Yours a form of ownership. That's like me saying, like, your mother might say something about your shoes being in the middle of the floor or something, right? Whose shoes are those? Are those your shoes, right? That's an ownership, right? Is that your car? Is that your wife? Right? That's kind of showing ownership to some degree or some type of affiliation, right? So people were telling me this meant that they were just celebrating God's days wrong, right? Like say they were celebrating Passover, but they was doing what they wanted to do. Right now, this is a separate day, right? Because it would have been like, I hate and despise the way you do my holy days. It didn't say that. It says, I hate, despise your feast days, right? And he wouldn't smell his they assemblies. He wouldn't take their burnt offerings or anything like that, right? He also said he wouldn't listen to their songs, their melodies. You know, people sing Christmas carols and stuff like that. That's not God, right? Those are not songs of God. That's not nothing. He's talking about those songs, right? The Silent Night, the Holy Night. That's not a biblical song, right? That's not a song God made. That's something they made, right? Just like I said, just making up things because that's what they do. Just make up things, right? And not realizing, like when you go further down, it talks about that you made a tabernacle, right, which is like a church, right, of your Moloch, which is a god, right? And then it says the star of your God. They talk about the star of David. There's no such thing, right? But there's a star of Moloch, right? Or they call it Remphan, right? Which I'm gonna show you a little bit. They like this is what they do, right? And they, like I said, they switch things and tie things. But these are scriptures they won't show you, right? These are scriptures they won't tell you about, right? You got to read, or find a church that talks about these. There's churches that talk about them, not just what I'm teaching is a lot of people teach. So that's how I learned about it, right? Um, but clearly they're doing something that is not of God, right? And whether they know it or not, these things are not of God, right? And you can't, like I said, you can't make evil good. So something's really bad, you can't twist it and change it and just, oh, this is God, put a God over it. No, that's not how that works, because these are rituals, these are sacrifices, these are offerings, these are worship events, right? Worship and things people do. Oh, there's nothing wrong with having a tree in your house. Well, who said that, right? Who told you that it wasn't, right? Who told you that it was cool that you could have a tree in your house, right? The people you grew up with who probably don't read the Bible, just go to the church, right? So that's part of the problem. So check this out, right? Look at these are the holidays. These are some holidays. This ain't even all of them. This is just a list I found. You got New Year's Day, MLK Day, Groundhog Day, Valentine's Day, President's Day, Chinese New Year, Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Daylight Saving, St. Patrick's, Purim. That's a good day. Holly, Spring, April Fools, Ramadan, Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Passover. Another good day. Easter, Tax Day, Armed Forces Day, Earth Day, Patriots Day, Teacher Appreciation Day, Cinco de Mayo, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Diwali, Yom Kippur, Patriot, Daylight Savings, Election Vote Day. What is that? That's a Veterans Day. Yep, no, President's Day, but it's Veterans Day, Black Friday, Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday, Winter, Hanukkah, uh, Christmas, happy birthdays, Christmas, Hanukkah ends, Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa not even real, by the way. This is really crazy. New Year, happy birthday, right? These are all these holidays, right? And most people can't even really tell you the meaning of these things, right? Some of them are a little more self-explanatory, like President's Day. You celebrate all the presidents that the country has. So only America will probably celebrate that. MLK Day, you remember Martin Luther King. Mardi Gras, that's just a day where people party, get drunk, and do stupid stuff, and girls, nude and things like that. Chinese New Year, because I guess their calendar is different. So just like our New Year will be in March, their New Year is in a different time too. It's not January, right? Um, Spring, stuff like that. Those days are cool, not the days they use, like just like the days I explained how they work on the biblical calendar. April Fools, a day when you prank people. Ramadan, uh, Palm Sunday, which is that's crazy too. Ash Wednesday, when they put the little ashes right here on their forehead to, I guess, show their, I don't know, shame. Easter, Lord, Easter, Armed Forces Day, which is crazy because you got Veterans Day, so they get like 2 days. Memorial Day. Some of these days, slavery was going on. Some of these days was made. Patriot Day, Teacher Appreciation Day. Now, some of these things like Teacher Appreciation Day, stuff like that, it's not saying that we can't appreciate teachers and stuff like that. But so we talking about the ones, mostly the big national ones, right? But then you got the other ones, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, those things where they just got people going out buying TVs. You already got 6 TVs in your house, you're going out and buy another TV. It doesn't make any sense, right? So these are like the big ones. You got New Year's, Valentine's Day, 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, right? Things like that. All right. So check this out. This is an apocrypha. I told you y'all gotta get that apocrypha. You gotta get that book. If your book you don't have it, hey, you gotta get it, right? This is Second Esdras chapter 1, verses 31. It says, "When you offer unto me, I will turn my face from you, for your solemn feast days, your new moons, and your circumcisions have I forsaken." Right. So instead of going about God's way, they was making up their own, they were making their own time. So like our new moons, right? It's supposed to be like the spring, summer, winter, fall, like when it comes in, right? God already got a day established for when summer comes in, fall, winter, and whatever. Ours, it just changes every year. Summer might start in June, one year might start in May, one year might start in July. Who knows? Same thing with all the other holidays, right? For the season, though. Then it talks about the feast days. Notice it says your solemn feast days, your new moons. That's ownership, right? God not saying you disrespected mine. He's talking about the ones that we're doing or they were doing, making up their own days, right? Just like I said, y'all, the days I just showed you, we go back just these days. He's just like, oh, we got our own spring day, right? We got our own feast day. We doing Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? We doing Christmas. We doing Kwanzaa. We doing all these things, right? But they're not associated with the Most High. So he got a problem with that, right? Because they're also doing these things and then trying to dedicate it to God as if this is for God, and God don't want it. You heard him say he don't care about the offerings. He don't care about the food. He don't care about the songs, because I don't care about the songs. The songs terrible. I don't want nobody, coming outside my house singing Christmas carols, even though I never had it happen to me. I just only seen it in movies, but I wouldn't want that, right? So this is Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 5. And I knew about this years before I even started following God, like in 2010 when I was talking about the holidays. But, I wasn't with the Lord. I was still being a dirty Dover, Delaware heathen. And I ain't think nothing about it, but I would use this, for Christians when they were celebrating Christmas. Because by this time I had been stopped celebrating Christmas. I started celebrating Christmas like 2000, I don't know, 2, 3, something a long time ago. Right. So this is Jeremiah 10, verses 1 through 5. It says, "Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." Now, some people, I would show them the scripture or tell them to look at the scripture. This is Christmas. I don't care what nobody tells you, right? Yeah, it might not be the part where it's about Santa, but the origin of Christmas is coming from this, right? For you to cut a tree outside the woods, it stands up straight like the palm tree, right? Which those wintergreen trees stand up straight like the palm tree, right? You deck it with silver and gold. I remember, decorating the tree. That was one of the things, that my little brother liked to do, start decorating the tree. We definitely had a little silver, I don't know what you call them, but the silver and gold strings of the confetti around the tree. You put up the little colorful little ornaments and stuff, and you're putting your angels and your candy canes and all that. Then they said it fastened it with nails with a hammer. Nowadays we probably got like stands where you can put it in like something like a holster or something, right? And it says, "But speak now, he must not be born." So the reason why God was telling about this, because people will say this is an idol, and it was an idol, right? But it has an origin about this story, right? And it's because they thought that they would die if they didn't do this, right? And we're going to talk about it, right? So check this out. So this is a picture of Nimrod, right, on one of the walls, back in the day, right? And you can go see this at the Bible Museum. I witnessed this art or whatever this is, like the actual like pieces, and showing you where these images came from. To that picture of Nimrod with look like a reindeer, right? And he got like a tree in his hand, which is even crazier. But Nimrod's supposed to be like a god, right? One of the first devil worshippers, on the planet. But this is him compared to Santa, right? It says the similarities, they both are oversized beings. Both of their birthdays or days are celebrated December 25th. They visit upon invitation, right? Knows more than us, because Santa knows it all, right? He knows that you're naughty, knows you're nice. Nimrod's supposed to be the man of knowledge too. They both cut down trees. They both got a reindeer, which is a real animal. They both come to life once a year, right? Because this is after Nimrod's supposed to have died. They both promises gifts, decorated with silver and gold balls, and they both got a beard. They look kind of identical, right? Just, one's supposed to be a little chubbier. And he's flying on the reindeer instead of Nimrod, as you can see in the picture. He got wings. So what happened was, I believe I got the story. Let me see. Nimrod. Here we go. The Nimrod tree, right? Look at that Christmas tree, right? It says on each anniversary of his birth, December 25th, Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it, right? And that's the sources from The Plain Truth About Christmas by David J. Stewart, December 24th, 2005. So that's 20 years ago, right? So when, let me go to this next one. All right. So here we go. The ritual of Christmas. Then we can go back to Jeremiah. It says the word Christmas comes from the Middle English word Christmas, which comes from the Old English word Christmesse, and means Christ or crisis mass. It doesn't take much digging to discover that this human-made holiday was created by the Roman Catholic Church as a Catholic ritual. Interesting. Christmas has nothing to do with Yeshua or his birth, and it has everything to do with Nimrod and Satan. I'll just say Jesus for this purpose. Jesus didn't create or encourage a holiday around his birthday. God didn't forget to include the exact day. It's absent from the Bible is intentional. Instead, Jesus warned us repeatedly against the dangers of religion and its rituals. But let's dig a little deeper. Luke 12:1, it says, under the circumstances, after so many thousands of people had gathered together, they were there stepping on one another. He began saying to his disciples, first of all, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy, right? Because they're always lying, right? Always lying, because what they do is not what they say, right? That's the hypocrisy. That's a hypocrite. Somebody that do differently what they say. Pagan sun gods. It says 2,000 years before the birth of Jesus, pagans worshiped numerous gods, including several sun gods. The winter solstice on December 21st, the darkest day of the year, was the most sacred time for these demonic pagan rituals. Rome, one of the most powerful and influential cities then, was particularly active in these pagan practices. We'll return to Rome and the Catholic Church in a moment. But first, we need to know who is Nimrod and how he came about, right? So this is legacy continue. So this says when Nimrod died in 2167 BC, his mom/wife promoted the idea, because Nimrod married his mom, which is even crazier. His wife promoted the idea that Nimrod had been a god. So she also claimed the full-grown evergreen tree was springing up from the dead tree stumps. So this is the trees that he was, going to visit. Apparently, when he died, one of the trees apparently sprung from wherever they buried him at, right? It says a few years later, Semiramis, Nimrod's mom/wife, claimed that she was visited by the spirit of Nimrod, who made her pregnant through immaculate conception. Heard that before, right? Notice Satan's repeating pattern to mimic God's stories and attempt to become God, even though I don't believe in immaculate conception. I believe Christ's parents had intercourse. Right? The immaculate conception isn't true, right? But we have seen entities, right? See, fallen angels impregnating women in Genesis 6 in the days of Noah. And this never leads to anything good, right? So even they say the immaculate conception isn't true. I don't believe that, right? I believe Joseph is Christ's physical dad on earth. It says the fallen angels, at least those who blaspheme God to procreate with humans, were no longer on the earth at this time because they were thrown into hell. And 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4-5, it says, God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to pits of darkness reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness. Right? So this is talking about a little bit where the origin of this tree thing came about with this guy Nimrod, right? So even 4, right? So it says, but we know other demonic entities can play a role here. There's also one fallen angel known as Satan, still roaming the earth. He, the leader of the other fallen angels, can also procreate with humans. This is where you get giants and things from. So Hercules and all those are not mythical creatures of people. Those are real people, right? From the sons of God, which were the angels that came down having sex with women, creating these cyclops and these super powerful abomination of people, right? So Semiramis bore a son named Tammuz, also known as Tammuz, Gilgamesh, Dumazid, Dumid, the shepherd, Dumuzi, Dumazid, or Horus. They go to the Egyptians for all your Kemet people, who she claimed to be the reincarnation of her deceased son / husband Nimrod. The satanic ideas of Semiramis and the birth of Tammuz are the beginning of the belief in reincarnation in all pagan religions. The birth makes Nimrod and then Tammuz the first Christ imposters or the first type of antichrist. And the date of birth for the reincarnated Nimrod, now called Tammuz, is December 25th. Isn't that funny? Remember, Semiramis was the mother / wife and the widow to the worldwide ruler. So to secure her reign, she devised a way of keeping the spirit of Nimrod alive. She already defied Nimrod as Baal, already deified Nimrod as Baal, the sun god, but needed a way for Nimrod to return to the people. After consulting her astrologers, that's a no-no, we don't do that, Semiramis was informed that the sun dies on December 21st, the darkest day of the year, but begins to return to life again on the eve of December 25th as the days grow longer. There's just so much about this Nimrod guy. You'll be all day, but just talking about him. With this astrological information in mind, Semiramis claimed that on the anniversary of Nimrod Tammuz's birthday, December 25th, Nimrod's spirit would visit these trees, the evergreen trees that return from the dead, and Nimrod Tammuz would leave gifts under the tree. Does this sound familiar to current Christmas ritual today? Sound like a little bit to me. Remember, these entities also go by the names of Baal and the Queen of Heaven. That's your Mother's Day right there, Queen of Heaven, right? Mother's Day. These are powerful entities and were warned not to participate in the rituals because they're an abomination of God. As you can see, the Queen of Heaven, it says Babylonia, Egyptian, Rome, Sumeria, Asia, India. Just a little picture down there. Semiramis, Isis, and Horus. It says Mary or Marie or Christ's mom, Mary and Jesus, Namu and Enki, Shimu, Devaki, and Krishna, right? So all these different cultures got the same story. That's how I know this can't be Christ's story, right? But they've convinced you that it is, so it makes it easy to believe Christ's story because now you feel like they copied it from Christ and they did. They made up this and then tried to alter our story and make it seem like Christ just came out of nowhere from a birth from just a lady. Like that's not what happened. Right? Queen of Heaven. Semiramis has elevated herself to queen, not only of the land, but as of God. And she was known as the Queen of Heaven. God warns us about her and uses the prophet Jeremiah to instruct people not to believe in her demonic ways. Right? So God was just using Jeremiah. Right? Jeremiah was for the win. Right? So this is the Tammuz tree. Right? It says Nimrod died relatively young and was considered by his followers to have been cut down like a tree. Jasher is a biblical endorsed extra biblical book referenced in the Bible, and it's assumed that the reader has read it as well. Some stories in the Bible are not given in great detail because the book of Jasher is referenced instead, making it unnecessary to repeat the information since the reader is assumed to know this information in greater detail already, for example. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped until the nation avenged themselves of their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? And the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. So Jasher is another book I recommend. Apocrypha, Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees. And the Bible speaks of these books, right? And people would tell you, well, that's not the real book of Jasher, or that's not this or that. Well, clearly they was reading out of something, right? And Jasher goes into like details of more of the Genesis, because Genesis gives you a quick summary, right? It doesn't go into detail as much as the other stories like Kings and Judges and stuff like that. But when you go read Jasher, you learn about the Tower of Babel. You learn about stuff going through Moses and things like that, right? So it says, according to the book of Jasher, Shem, another of the three sons of Noah, placed a bounty on Nimrod's life. A mighty hunter named Esau, the son of Jacob, killed Nimrod, right? Interestingly, Shem's bloodline is the same bloodline that Esau, Jacob, Abraham, and Jesus come through. It's also the same bloodline of Moses, Joshua, and David. These three removed nearly all, although not quite all, of the satanic hybrid giants Nephilim from the face of the earth after the flood. There is greater importance and power in the blood than most people realize, right? So it's talking about the bloodlines and how he was trying to get rid of them because, like I said, Nimrod is supposed to be like a giant-sized person, right? Not necessarily normal. And he came from the land, the generation of, or I mean, the line of Ham. So you got Shem, Japheth, and Ham, right? And he's the grandson of Ham, right? But Ham's family were dealing with, angels and things like that, and these fallen angels and having these super babies, and Nimrod is a product of that, right? So right here it says Enoch was a man of God and the great grandfather of Noah, while Nimrod was a man of Satan and the great grandchild of Noah. Enoch's writings provide the most detailed amount of the fall of the Watcher, the fallen angels who fathered the Nephilim, the giant half-human hybrids. While the book of Enoch is no longer included in most versions of the Bible, Enoch's writings are quoted and mentioned by the name in both the Old and New Testament. With this cut down, like a tree idea, the pagans were ordered by Nimrod's mother/wife Semiramis to celebrate Nimrod's resurrection by cutting down an evergreen tree, taking it to their homes, and then decorating it with silver and gold balls to symbolize Nimrod's testicles. Remember, Semiramis was also known as the goddess of fertility. The evergreen tree that revived from the dead was a location where, on the anniversary of Nimrod's birthday, his spirit would visit these trees and leave gifts under them for his followers. Yes, the gifts under the tree are for those who follow the satanic leader Nimrod, reincarnated as Tammuz. Right? Don't drop. It says some people who haven't studied the word of God argue that Christmas isn't in the Bible. The truth is, Christmas is in the Bible, like many things. Its name has been changed in the case by the Catholic Church. In the Bible, Christmas is known as the days of weeping for Tammuz and Tammuz tree holiday. The Tammuz tree was the idolatry and representation of the slain god Nimrod coming to life again with the hope that the demonic entity will give us gifts. These pagan practices were known as the Tammuz tree. But after the Catholic Church incorporated these pagan beliefs into their church, their rituals and idols became known as the Christmas tree. Changing the name of a satanic ritual doesn't change the power and energy behind it, right? So even no matter we try to decorate it over and do all these things, it still is something evil. And that's what I was trying to say, right? It's still evil. These ain't even my words. I didn't type all this stuff up. This is from this article, right? It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6 and 12, right? Then it reads, God himself warns us about the Tammuz tree, which many now call the Christmas tree, but the same ritual by another name maintains its satanic and energetic roots. So instead of they call it the Nimrod tree or the Tammuz tree, they call it the Christmas tree. They put Christ in front of it. You put a new label, and it's like what Bugs Bunny did on Space Jam. You ever seen? He had water at the water fountain. He labeled it Michael Secret stuff. It was just water, but he made them believe that, and they started playing basketball even better. Right? That's what they're doing. They got an evil ritual, and they paint Christ's name on it, or Christmas, or whatever, and say this is Christ's birthday, and boom, you participate in the evil ritual. Right? That's all they do. It says, let me see if it goes to this one. See if I try to read this. It says, thus saith the Lord, do not learn the way of the nations, and do not be terrified by the signs of heaven, although the nations are terrified by them, for the custom of the people are delusion, because it is wood cut from the forest. So that's actually Jeremiah 10. It's just in a different version of the Bible, but I'm going to go back to Jeremiah 10 and read that again. It says God tells us these things for a reason and with extreme warnings. It's worth repeating that the same ritual by another name maintains its satanic energetic roots. This precise description of today's Christmas tree, also known as Tammuz tree, is directly tied to these same satanic entities. When we read this passage in context, in chapter 7, 8, and 9, we see Baal mentioned by name, along with the practices of Tammuz and the fires of Moloch with the burning of the children. This passage of the Christmas tree is the continuation of topic and thought from the previous chapters. According to God, these are not separate issues. These ritual practices are linked because the same demonic entities are behind all of them. It benefits us to embrace God's blessing that come from avoiding these practices as we humble ourselves and let God's word and truth direct our lives more than continuing in the satanic traditions of Nimrod and his followers. Right? Nimrod's unholy trinity. I don't do the Trinity, but Nimrod's unholy trinity is where the Trinity came from. They, like I said, they put their own religion and put it into what they say is in the Bible. This is not right, and this is why you people think that it's coming from there because they've been tricking people, right? So there's no such thing as the Trinity, far as in the biblical aspect. But there is a Trinity outside for the pagan gods. They do got a Trinity, and this is where it come from. All the sun gods created out the pagan world after Nimrod were fashioned after his likeness or are the same entity, but described differently in different cultures. They use different names, but are still recognizable as copies of the sun god of Babylon, known as Nimrod. So in Nimrod is Semiramis, Nimrod, Tammuz, right? That's their little trinity or whatever the case may be. And then this goes into all right. So it says, the man who walks directly in the steps, correct me, O Lord, but nothing just is not with you, your anger, or you will bring me to nothing. Jeremiah 10:23-24. It says, God tells us these things for a reason with extreme warnings. It's worth repeating. That same ritual by another name maintains its satanic energetic roots. The precise description of today's Christmas tree, also known as a Tammuz tree, is directly tied to those same entities, right? So this is what I just read before, right? So, one second. So we're going to go back to Jeremiah. We're going to read Jeremiah again. So we're going to read, start at verse 2, right? It says, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, right? For the customs of the people are vain, which mean they're useless, they're no good, they're evil. For one cutteth a tree out the forest, like the Nimrod tree, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe, to deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, right? Because they're saying it's the reincarnation. Because they cannot go, be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. So during this time, the Israelites were putting these trees in their houses, celebrating this because they was afraid something bad was going to happen. As when I read earlier, it was talking about how his mom was telling people they had to do this and remember him because something bad will happen to him. He'll come and visit them, right? And like I said, gifts because they say he bring gifts. Who bring gifts? Santa bring gifts. Who also bring gifts? Nimrod, right? But if you didn't participate in this act, they were afraid that they were going to die. So some people were just doing this. Some people were doing it because they wanted to be part of the pagan ritual, but a lot of them were doing it because they were scared. And God's telling them through Jeremiah, "Hey, don't be scared. It's okay. You ain't got to do this." Right? But they had a fear that this spirit and these entities would come and destroy their homes and destroy their lives and so much forth, and they didn't participate in this act. Now you got everybody in the world participating in this act, right? And they just, they got toys and then they going towards the children, right? All those things is happening because of this one thing that's in Jeremiah, right? So check this out. So it says, you don't need to believe in the Yule. Believe in the Yule, right? Yule, the Scandinavian fertility god, to enjoy the tradition of Yuletide, carols and greetings. You don't need to be a Wiccan to enjoy the tradition of wreaths or decorating the halls with holly, right? That's the quote unquote mistletoe. People put that on their doors. I seen that on my parents' door when I was younger. You kiss under the mistletoe and all that. That's not what that is. That's not what that is. That's a wreath from the holly tree, something the witches use, right? Then you got the druid. I seen those people houses. So you don't need to be a druid to enjoy the tradition to hoping for a kiss under the mistletoe. You got the mistletoe and then you got the holly, right? And I think they call that holly one like a wreath. And then you got the mistletoe. That's how you see the little movies and people be kissing under it. Then it says you don't need to believe in God or Saturn to enjoy the tradition of decorating the Saturnalia tree in your home. So you don't gotta believe in God, because people who don't believe in God actually celebrate Christmas. That's what's crazy. It's supposed to be about Christ, and people still do it. That's how I know it can't be a religious thing, or not religious thing, but thing according to the Bible. I've met plenty of people who do not believe in Christmas, meaning believe in Christ, and they celebrate Christmas. They believe Christ's birthday. Why would I celebrate somebody's birthday and I don't believe in them? They're not a real person, right? But then they'll say, "Oh, it's bigger than that for family and kids." So you know what you're doing. You just grew up doing it, and that's why you're doing it, right? You don't need to believe in Thor, Odin, or Saint Nicholas to enjoy the tradition of a visitor bringing gifts at night. Thor, Odin is was it Norse mythology? All right, these are real people though. Um, and I guess they apparently use them in their stories to bring gifts at night, right? Then it says you don't need to believe in sleep near Odin's flying eight-legged horse to enjoy the tradition of listening to for the sound of hooves on your rooftop, right? You don't have to believe in those things. You believe in reindeers, right? And you believe reindeers can fly, and you believe a fat jolly man comes around and gives stuff to you, right? Or at least that's what you tell the kids and telling them a lie. And then when they find out, they so brainwashed, they've been doing it for so long, they want to lie to their kids. Don't even realize you say it's tradition, but you traditionally lying to your children, right? Then it says you don't need to believe in Mithras to enjoy the tradition of celebrating the sun's rebirth on December 25th, right? That's that holiday, right? Christ's birthday, according to them. Then we know it's Tammuz's birthday, and this is when they were celebrating Nimrod. Then it says, and you don't need to believe in Jesus Christ to enjoy the tradition of renaming the ancient holiday to Christ's Mass, right? You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to believe in Christ because people still celebrate this. It says all you need to enjoy these winter festivities is to be merry. Right? People say it's be merry and happy. It's about to come up now. People about to start, hey, Merry Christmas. Everybody just got the spirit, right? The spirit of being merry. And the whole year they've been mad, angry, just doing all kinds of things. Nope, not when Christmas come around. Here they come. Right. So this is the book of Colossians, it's chapter 2, verses 8. It says, beware lest any man spoil you through false philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Right. It says, after the traditions of men, after the rudiments of the world, right? Not after Christ. Christmas is not about Christ. Thanksgiving is not about Christ. Easter, Good Friday, these things are not about Christ, right? Ash Wednesday, this ain't God stuff. This is stuff that the world made, and people that can understand. We're not supposed to be part of the world, right? But like I said, they're so used to the traditions because now you've been doing them for so long. Your family tied to them, emotion and memories, and right, and that's all cool. We all did it. Like I said, I participated too when I didn't know no better. I know better now, and I showed you the video before. You know, you go back and you haven't seen that video. In the biblical holy days, God give us days where we can be loving each other, giving out gifts and doing things right the right way, not these ways. These ways is these it's not the way. All right. Second Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6. It says, now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Yeshua Mashiach, that you withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which he received of us. Right. So it's saying, hey, look, if somebody not doing what we doing, you gotta step away from them. Right. That don't mean you can't, you don't gotta disrespect them. Doesn't mean you still can't have love for them. But if you really love them, you will actually walk away from them. Right? That's real love because it's like I'm not about to participate because like I said, you got people watching you. You might be going to Christmas parties and stuff and things like that, and people watching and seeing what you do, and it's like, well, Juice went to a Christmas party, so they'll go. Or Juice was out here and they'll go. Even myself, I gotta be mindful of that. Got reminded about that earlier this year. Sometimes you never know who watching or what the case may be, so you gotta be mindful of what you do. So they just doing stuff because that's what they grew up on. But God is teaching the opposite. Who you gonna roll with, God or your friends? God or these people? Even if there was a brother in the church, right? I'm not going to your Christmas party, right? I'm not going to you. I'm not going to that because that's not of God, right? You're actually kind of breaking God's rules. Here's another one. Mark 7, verse 7 through 9. All right. It says, howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, you hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things you do. And he said unto them, full well, ye reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your own tradition. That's what people are doing today. They rejecting the Passover. They rejecting, unleavened bread, first fruits, tabernacles. But boy, they did for Thanksgiving. You want to see them Cowboys play. You want to see them Packers play. They here for New Year's. To get drunk with their friends and stuff like that. They here for Easter. Don't know what a bunny got to do with eggs. Because bunnies only lay eggs. Let alone what does a bunny and eggs got to do with Christ? But hey, they put in here 4th of July. Halloween just passed. Halloween's is crazy. Like that's probably the craziest day on earth besides the day of the flood and the day when Christ comes back. That's probably the two crazy days on earth, right? Well, yeah, besides, well, the most just eventful day, right? Halloween got to be next. Most people get kidnapped, the most more ritual sacrifice. I think they said like an average of 800,000 people in that day. That's a lot of people. That's a million people just in America, right? Just missing, right? Like I live in DC, and DC, a million plus people. So you tell me most of the city is gone every year just from that? Children, grown ups, and one night or one day, that's insane, right? But what we doing, we celebrating those instead of just, saying, doing what we supposed to do and celebrating God, worshiping God, being in the house, being under safety, being under the protection of the Most High, right? Nah, we ain't doing those. Why would we do those? That's foolish. So I'm gonna give you a couple other ones, right? Not gonna go too deep in them. But all these holidays is just they're no good. So this is Easter, right? Easter has celebrated today is a blend. That's funny. A blend of Christian and pagan traditions. While it commemorates the Christian belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, many of its symbols and customs, like the Easter bunny and eggs, have roots in pagan festivals celebrating spring and fertility. The name Easter itself is believed to be derived from Estoril, or Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring, right? And you go down under the picture right there where the bunny's at. It says, well, it turns out Easter actually began as a pagan festival celebrating spring in the northern hemisphere, long before the advent of Christianity. Since prehistoric times, people have celebrated the equinoxes and the solstice as sacred times, University of Sydney professor Carol Cusack said. So earlier, the topic says they combined, right? They both sharing a day. Easter is supposed to be when Christ resurrects from the grave, but let's talk about that another story. But that's not the date, right? Let alone, let's say if it was that day, right? God never told us to celebrate that particular day like that, right? When Easter to Christ's resurrection, that's not the biblical they said to celebrate, right? So they, as you can see, was doing Easter way before Christ was about, way before Christianity was about, right? And then when the Council of Nicaea or whatever, they had control of Christianity with the Roman, they put it all together in Constantine. They put it all together, made the Christians do a compromise. And I tell people compromising is not good. They always tell you, you got to compromise in your relationship. You got to compromise this. Why you can't compromise? Compromise means half happy. Compromising is bad because now it means that you're not fully on what you believe in. So you believed in Toyota and somebody convinced you to get a Chevy, you compromise because it was cheaper, right? Cool, no problem. And yeah, this person might be happy. They might be half happy. Who knows? But I know you really gonna be upset a little bit because that's not what you wanted to do, right? So just imagine somebody doing the same thing for you about God. I don't celebrate this. Oh, well, come on, man. It's still about God a little bit. Like he died that day. We just be playing around with bunnies and eggs that day and having sex. Oh, okay, I'll celebrate. You cooked. Because when you know what compromise mean, it means like you in the middle, like lukewarm. And what Christ said, can't be lukewarm. It was better you be on the bad side. It's better you just fully celebrate Easter, be a pagan, or you fully come over here and don't celebrate the Passover, right? But like I said, people don't see it that way. Look at this, a bunny, right? A bunny and eggs. What this got to do with anything, right? It makes no sense. I remember one time when I had moved around the ghetto, which is where the Jews live, um, there was an Easter egg hunting contest, and I couldn't participate. They said I was too old. When my little brother was young enough, so all the kids had like their parents, and their parents were helping them find eggs. And we like, well, since we can't participate, we gonna help my little brother. And we had all the eggs. I kind of felt bad because none of the kids really getting eggs because their parents wasn't too Easter egg hunting savvy. But we had like all these eggs. It looked like when they gave what's that boy name? I can't think of his name, but when they gave the boy off of Teenage Turtles all the little pins off the off the mannequin, he just had everything. Like woo. So I thought that was funny, but Easter, like I said, the bunny don't even lay eggs, right? But the bunny is a real sexual creature, far as like this, its ability to reproduce, right? Reproduce pretty fast within a few weeks, just like a mouse or something, right? And they're always, humping. They always is active, right, trying to reproduce, which is their job, right? They're like rodents or whatever, bottom feeder type animals. And the egg represents fertility, like a woman, right? Which it was saying in all the articles I was reading. So they got nothing to do with Christ. Resurrection, like what is that? What does a bunny got to do with resurrection? What does an egg got to do with resurrection? Maybe birth, right? If anything, but resurrection, this bunnies don't even lay eggs. You could at least have an animal that lay egg like a duck or something, right? Look, Easter. Then they put a cross right here. That's what they do. They decide to get you. They put a cross, and now it's a part of the church. Cross, put your little flowers there. Oh, come celebrate Easter. Man, ain't nobody coming to celebrate this, man. Right? Look at this. Easter's actually in the Bible, right? Check this out. Acts 12, verses 3 through 5. It says, and because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. Right? So the days of unleavened bread is already happening. So it can't be Passover, which they say Passover is, because then the days for unleavened bread. Then it says, and when he had apprehended him, he put him into prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intended after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. So the days of unleavened bread is already happening, right? It's kind of like they passed, right? It's all right. Then those are the days, and they were going to keep them to Easter, which will make sense because we celebrated Passover like in March this year. We always celebrated in March. It was like, don't quote me. Look. We celebrated Easter, not Easter, Passover, March 8th, right? And Easter, if I'm not mistaken, was the 20th. So they was planning on keeping him for like a month, right? Keeping him for a little, a good second. Keeping him for a while, right? And then letting him go. And Easter is not Passover. Those are 2 different days, right? Passover is always on the same day. It's always on that Friday, Saturday, right? Easter is on Sunday. That's a total different day, right? Let's say Christ did die on Good Friday. We say he died on Saturday. But let's say he died on Good Friday. That's not Easter. Then they say Easter because they said Good Friday, so they say Easter is Sunday. That's the day he rose. Friday from Sunday, not even 3 days. It's 2. They off again. So it still wouldn't matter. You see what I'm saying? And then, like I said, they'll say Passover. They say that's supposed to be Passover, but it can't be Passover because Passover would already happen by the time the days of unleavened bread. Because he said after the days of unleavened bread, he's gonna let them go. Right? It wouldn't make sense to say we're gonna lock them up on unleavened bread and release him after unleavened bread. Nah, they ain't part of it, but they about to hold him forever. He about to go to court. All right, they trying to get rid of him, but God, let Peter out. They trying to unallow this man. Right? Look at this. This is some more stuff, just talking about these holidays. So that's that star Moloch or Remphan, whatever it is, that star right there, that 5-pointed star, the pentagram. And as you can see, they got their little things, the Yule winter solstice, the Samhain or Samhain, that's Halloween. You got what's that called? The Mason, the autumn equinox. You got Embolic. You got all these different. These are like, holy days for these devil worshiping people, right? They got these days where they're doing these rituals on people and on people of the earth and things like that. This is all coming from satanic stuff. Even right here, you see that one on the upper right where it says Wheel of the Year. You see that little circle with the little almost like pointy triangle footballs right there in the corners. Is in all 4 corners. That's actually the sign of the Trinity that they use in churches. Like you go some churches, that'll be the same Trinity sign that I'm gonna put another video talking about the Trinity. That's the same sign they use. The churches use these signs. You probably didn't even know that star is used. You think about it, it's like on the Cowboys. Sometimes it's used in like police officers and stuff like that. That star is that's not what a star looks like. That's a symbol of a pagan god. Right? That's how they talk to each other, how they, symbolize things. But we don't know that, right? We don't know better, right? Because we haven't been learning from God. We've been learning from people that teach pagan ways, right? Learning from Gentiles. That's not how this is supposed to go, right? Gentile activity will get you nowhere, right? Because we're not supposed to be learning from them. We're supposed to be learning from the God, learning from the Bible. Everything we pick up is supposed to be from the Lord, right? Look at this. A list of pagan holidays we do not celebrate and are not biblical: Father's Day, Mother's Day, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, Halloween, Labor Day, New Year's Day Eve, Memorial Day, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, right? And those are the verses I read earlier that talks about like you're not supposed to be doing these things, like Father's Day and Mother's Day, right? Notice it as it is right here, but when you look up Father's Day and Mother's Day, let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. Give me 1 second. All right, let's see if it's going to be able to show this. I don't know if it's going to show this. Of course, it's not going to show it. It's not going to show it because it's on my phone, right? But Father's Day or Mother's Day, right? When you look it up, right? It's not like typed up on here. When you look at this day, right? You type it up. You look on the calendar. It says fathers, right? Right, with an apostrophe between the R and the S, right? It's kind of like ownership that belongs to somebody. And what they'll say is it's going to be no, that's your Father's Day, or no, 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 or your Mother's Day. No, 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 no. Father's Day is the Son God. Mother's Day is the Queen of Heaven, right? And you can look it up, right? Just look up the origin of these days, right? I said I'll make a video breaking down each one of these days, but you can look up the origin of these days. These are nothing to do with God, because if it was Father's Day and Mother's Day, it should be typed how it is on the screen right now with no apostrophe in it, because it'll mean that it's all for all fathers or for all mothers. But it has apostrophe in it. That means it's dedicated to somebody. It's almost like if it said like LeBron James Day, right? And there might be more people named LeBron James, but it wouldn't say LeBron James's day, right? Because it's showing you who it's dedicated to. So they're going to call her the Queen Mother or Mother of Heaven or Father. So you got to be careful like how you use words and stuff like that, because those are not days we will be celebrating our parents, right? Because the thing, why celebrate your mom separately your father? The God says honor your mother and your father, right? It's one and the same. You will celebrate. If it was a day called Parents Day, I might let it slide, right? I ain't letting these two slide. Even Parents Day, I still be questionable, but it's more realistic for Parents Day than a Father's Day, and then it's separate for Mother's Day. Especially nowadays, mothers be trying to take over Father's Day too. They want both days, but nah, it shouldn't be like that, right? But these are days we've made up, right, for us to spend more money on. We're supposed to honor our parents every single day. It shouldn't be just one day. Um, and here's a list of the names, date, secular names, and the pagan names. January 1st, New Year's Day, pagan name, New Year's Day. February 1st, 2nd, it's Groundhog Day, but the pagan version of it is called Imbolc. February 14th, St. Valentine's Day. Pagan name is Lupercalia. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. All Snakes Day. Now I probably know why they wear green. The spring equinox, Easter or spring. This one is called Estra or Stara. Earth Day is called Earth Day. Arbor Day is called Arbor Day. May Day is called Beltane. Mother's Day is Mother's Day, right? So now that one got the apostrophe at the S at the end of it, right? Then you got Memorial Day, which is Memorial Day in pagan. Father's Day, Father's Day. First day of summer, midsummer. That's not even the same day. So first day and in the middle of the summer. Come on, man! Like this is the confusion. Independence Day, August 1st. I guess we don't have a national holiday, but they got one called Lughanzif. The first day of fall, the Mabon of the equinox, Columbus Day, Leif Erikson Day. So before Columbus even thought of, it was already mayhem. Halloween, Samhain, Election Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving. First day of winter is Yule, and Christmas is the Sol Invictus. All right, Nativity. So all these things got names already, right? And the pagan stuff came before. So that's the names that we should be researching. So don't research Christmas, research all these names. Take a screenshot of it, write them down, take a picture of all these names. Go and just look at the origins, look at these things. God doesn't want us doing this stuff, right? God doesn't want us celebrating these things. God doesn't want us partaking in these things, right? Because they're not good for us. They're not practical. They're dedication to witches, warlocks, gods that's not the most high, right? Even in these days, things are like there's nothing special about New Year's Day. Somebody told me they celebrate New Year's because they celebrate the New Year, and they celebrate birthday, but being thankful for being around here for another year. So you got 2 New Years in 1 year. It's crazy, right? You don't even see it. It's just another excuse to party. Cinco de Mayo, right? I found out this wasn't even like some Spanish little Independence Day. It's something else, and people just take it to drink. It don't matter what culture they are, what race they are. They just, hey, Cinco de Mayo, you drinking? You can drink any day. But when you realize, don't realize when you participate in a certain day, like I said, you participating in that spirit. Or when they say Christmas, oh, you're not in the Christmas spirit. Spirits are real. I'm a spirit. You're a spirit. Animals are spirits. What spirit is we celebrating on Christmas? What spirit are we celebrating on any of these days? We got to think about things like this, man. It's not always just a fleshly thing. Oh, it's harmless. It seems harmless. Even on the Christmas tree, what you put on the top of the Christmas tree? A star, right? Star, Moloch, or sometimes you put an angel, right? And they're like, "What's an angel?" Well, first of all, the Bible don't really describe angels the way they be showing them on the ornaments with the wings and the robes and stuff like that. But let's say it was. It also say Satan can disguise himself as an angel of light. How you know you're not putting Satan on top of your Christmas tree? Let alone candy canes. It's an upside down J. So let's say you was for Christ, you disrespected him because you put it upside down. I know what somebody gonna say, oh well, it couldn't be another way. No, you could just hold the candy cane and put like a little ornament in all the plastic pieces so you can hang it. Nope. They want you to hang it the other way, right? Upside down, just like how the Catholics put the cross on their hat, the big old little meat cheese hat they got, the cross upside down. They know what they're doing. It ain't that. You just don't know what's going on, right? And that's the problem. So we shouldn't celebrate these. So any of these commercial holidays, come up out of them. You know, I know it's not easy. I know you got family. I know you got loved ones. I know you tied to them, things like that. But come up out of them. God don't want you in them, right? God wants you to be better. He wants you to come do His holy days. You know, worship Him, serve Him. Because even Him, He gives you the ability to even serve these stupid, vain holy days, whatever you want to call them, these festival days, right? But He don't want you to do that, right? He wants you to come up out of them, repent. That's what repent means. Stop doing it. Change your way. Not say you sorry and keep doing it. Now repent. Come up out of it. You was a thief. Stop stealing. You was a fornicator. Stop fornicating. Right? You was a little pagan and you going to all the festivals. Stop going to all the festivals, man. Come out of that. Right? That's what God wants. You know, that's what we all want. And you know, you'll follow God. We want everybody on the same page. We want everybody to be one big family. That's what it is about being adopted into God's family, right? Because you God's family, or you know who you are. You with the other side, right? That's just what it is, and ain't no real in between. Like I said, you better off being with the other side than being lukewarm. Because when you're on either one of the teams, what benefits can you get? What blessings can you get? Because God don't want to bless you because you ain't doing enough for Him. And Satan, like, well, you ain't doing too much for me. I mean, you're not going with God, but you're not really helping me. So why would I bless you, right? You better off picking a side. Make sure you pick the right side. And we all know the right side is Christ's side, right? So just think about that, man. When you, like I said, watch this video, watch the biblical holidays or biblical holy days, and you just think about, you know, what you're doing and what they mean. Like, what do these days mean for you? Are you doing them just because you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 20 years old because it's tradition? You know, are you doing them because you really believe in a flying fat man delivering gifts? You really believe bunnies and Easter. People can't even tell you what Easter even talking about. That's why I never understood about Easter. I asked my mom when I was younger. She couldn't tell me. Nobody could tell me. They just, oh, it's Easter, this day when Christ resurrected. Well, what does that got to do with Christ? Like, out of all the mascots in the world, you pick a bunny and eggs. You couldn't pick a dove or a giant lion just because he's strong. I don't know. You pick a bunny and eggs. That's how I know it's not Christ based. Christmas, Halloween. Everybody want to be a witch. Everybody want to be a ghoul or a ghost or something evil because most of the things is evil. All the costume mostly evil, and you wear a costume, but you don't even know if the costume is evil from like a cartoon like Shrek. Shrek, that's an ogre. Ogre is not a good creature. That's an evil creature, right? One of those little abomination monsters that the angels made. That's not a good creature, but you know they do. They turn them into a TV star, and then they become good, and your children watch. That's not good, right? We got to think about these things when we got babies watching, right? And kids watching, children, not kids, but children. I don't like calling them kids, but children watching, right? They the ones, and when they're gonna keep doing repeating the cycle, somebody gotta break the curse. Gotta break the cycle. We gotta wake up, right? Can't have these things. Cause that's not what the Most High wants. All right. He don't want us to keep doing these things. All right. So that was today's lesson. Thank y'all again for watching, checking us out. You already know more videos be coming soon. Stay tuned. Peace. Shalom. Love y'all. Good night.